Hey, welcome everybody. And
Hey.
we almost forgot to click the button, but we figured it out just in the nick of time. It's kind of
Yeah,
funny,
we got it. We got it.
naturally. And it is Halloween today. Happy Halloween to everybody. Um,
Old
you
Hallows Eve.
oh yeah. So my cats have been crazy the last couple days, probably because they're prepping for today. So you may or may not get some visitors. One's chirping at me right now, so you may have heard her already. But hey, it is what it is. So today we got a crazy episode. It's our Halloween special. We'll do these occasionally if we're right around a holiday time and it's about our time to do a little show. So today's not necessarily 100% Wheel of Time esque. We're gonna throw down a little history on you, and then we will kind of get it into the Wheel of Time a little bit. But this is more of a thing that we wanted to just do as a special. As you know, if you're already watching us, hopefully you know us. I'm Theo. This is Derek. We're the Heels of Time, and this is our Halloween special of the day. Am I right, Derek?
That's right. So you're gonna get a little bit of a history
Yeah,
lesson.
yeah, yeah. Little
We're
history
gonna
today. Little history.
and we will see, we will talk about a few parallels to the day Halloween and some of the crazy stuff that happens in the Wheel of Time. But I'm gonna throw it back to Theo
Yeah,
so that he can
cool.
go ahead and kind of set the stage for us and explain why in the heck we give candy to strangers once a year.
Maybe we'll see. Anyway, so Halloween. How do we are in North America, so we celebrate Halloween by dressing up, going around, having parties. As Derek put, we give candy to folk. Uh, the main saying is trick or treat. Probably 95% of the people give us a treat, not a trick. But I have had a few tricks back in the day. It was pretty funny though. Also sad they gave us treats as well, but it was pretty funny. So it's more of a celebration here, like party celebration, like good times, happy times. Uh, get together with some work colleagues, do things. I know my where I work, they came around with like a candy tray, and people were dressed up and just like, get your little thing of candy, y'all. That's not quite how it always was. So Halloween actually began as a Celtic holiday. Um, it was actually more of a
Interesting.
festival. And were you saying something,
Uh,
Derek?
oh no, I said that's interesting.
Oh, my bad.
Celtic tradition is always a little interesting to me.
Yeah, I could figure. I figured. So it was actually the Celtic festival of Samhain. Um, it looks like Samhain, and I always thought that's how it was pronounced. Cause I'm an old person, so if you ever want to look up the old school Ghostbusters like cartoon, old school, it's actually really good. But they had a Halloween episode that was Sam Hain. There was like a big Halloween dude. He was super tall, had a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin head, and it would only come out on October 31st. So I literally thought that was, they did say he was like, back in the Celtic days. So I actually thought it was a ghost. I'm wrong. I mean, I've known I've been wrong for a while, but that was my first interpretation of the actual day. It's not. It's actually a holiday. Um, People would set fire to stuff, not literally arson. It was controlled bonfires. They would wear costumes. They would wear costumes, and that was to ward off ghosts and such.
All right.
Um, the particular day itself had meaning. It technically marked the end of the summer, and this I'm saying in quote unquote, because obviously the solstice is back in June, but this was more about ending of the summer harvest season. Like this was it. Like you could tell that it was colder now, and again, if you're unfamiliar, the Celtic population they lived about 2,000 years ago, and where we think of Ireland, the UK, and most and northern France area.
Hmm.
So yeah, they would notice that it would be definitely getting colder at this point of the year. This was also the time where there was a little blurring between the living and the dead. So this particular night, they threw this festival. Festival. And this is where they believed the ghosts of the dead would return to the earth. Kind of freaky. So Halloween does kind of go along those lines in modern day too. They believe they would cause trouble. They would damage the remaining crops, and these otherworldly spirits, although not necessarily pure evil per se, were actually kind of helpful too. The Druids, if people have heard of those, they're actually still Celtic. They're still part of the Celtic enclave,
Right on.
but they were the priests. They would tend to make prophecies, and this would be a particular day and time that they would actually think that their predictions about the future would be more readily available. So for people that depended on this was actually a pretty cool day, and they're like, yes, get prepared for the winter. Because it would be brutal winter back then. They didn't have furnaces and such. So to commemorate that, they would make these huge sacrificial bonfires. They would burn crops as sacrifices, animals as well to the different Celtic deities, just to make sure that everything was, on point and nothing bad would actually occur. They would wear costumes, like I said before. Obviously, it wouldn't be like Spider-Man or anything like that, but it would be animal head skin, like animal skins dressed up as like a goat or something. And they would try to tell each other's fortunes and such. Because today it technically is a celebration. It's not like a bad day. It's not bad connotation to it. Because when the festival was over, all the people would relight their hearths. Which, I mean, obviously, to get through the winter back then, you had to build something to get the heat in. So this would all make sense. And this would all come, today would be like the day. And yes, the fires and such were put out in the morning, and then they'd be lit. You could almost say November 1st, because it was like a all-day thing. I thought that's pretty cool. I'm going to get into
I think that's actually pretty interesting
in a little bit.
I don't want to forget this later.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Shoot it up, man.
Throw this in. So, particularly in the first two books, there's a reoccurring theme in the Wheel of Time, and it's the Three Tavren, which I suppose in the show it's going to be 5 now, which is interesting.
Right.
But the 3 would be visited in a reoccurring dream by who they were told was Baalzamon. Now, spoiler warning, Baalzamon ends up being a man named Ishamael, who is one of the Forsaken. But he's dangerous. I mean, to them at that point in the series, it wouldn't have mattered if he was the Dark One himself or how powerful he was. But the point is, Baalzamon would come. He kind of reminds me of the human embodiment of a jack-o'-lantern. They talk about his eyes and mouth having fire behind them. Mm-hmm. But then what's interesting visual here and use of phrase is that he would always appear to them in front of a hearth, and the hearth would usually be ablaze, and there'd be a comment about either not feeling the heat,
right,
despite the flame or what have you. So I think that's kind of some interesting imagery in light of the discussion of Halloween. So there's definitely some spooky things going on in the Wheel of Time. And real quick, I'll just say that the final battle in the Wheel of Time and that they're heading towards in the series, it's kind of symbolic of some kind of grand season. Like, yeah, every year you get a winter, but every now and then a big winter comes. And with that in mind, at some point along the way, definitely the spiritual realm is weakening. And literally at some point in the series, you do see ghosts walking on the earth. So No candies involved, and I don't think anyone comes up with a specific idea to try to hide from them exactly. But
Right?
that's definitely supposed to be like a sign that yeah, the old seals are weakening, and so on, that kind of talk. So I'm going to throw it back to you. I just wanted to interject for a second.
No, yeah. And hey, man, interject as you see fit. If you find something interesting, just holler at me.
Sounds good.
All right, all right. So about 43 years later, because I said we're about 2,000 years ago, so we're looking at literally zero. So around 43 AD, Roman Empire is in full effect. They're probably almost at their, I would say almost their peak. At this point, they've actually conquered most of the Celtic area. And
Right.
they basically ruled that for about 400 years. Um, the nice, I don't say nice thing about the Romans, but an interesting point about the Romans, we're getting off topic a little bit. They usually didn't crush their enemies. They gave you a choice. Either willingly come over. If you willingly come over, you just pay us some taxes. We'll help you out. We'll do your thing. You're under our protection. You need to provide some folks for the army, of course, but you get to keep your traditions. We're basically hands off. We're just your, I wouldn't say overlords. That sounds a little harsh, but they would kind of let you do your thing. Or you could say no to that, and then they would like just kill you. You had kind of no choice. Now, in terms of the British Isle area, hotly contested. Obviously, it's a heck of a distance from Rome to, Ireland, Scotland, UK, even northern France. So they always had a difficult time getting up there to fully conquer. A lot of people say Hadrian's Wall, and that was a delineation point. Like, you can't really go north of this because it's the wildlands. So they ruled most, but they didn't rule all because they couldn't just get all the way up there. But anyway, they also tried to infuse the Roman traditional holidays. One, it was Feralia. That's a day, go figure, late October. Right? And it commemorated the passing of the dead. Sounds pretty easy just to adopt in there, right? You got late October holiday, October 31st, roll it in there and just kind of ease it in so it's not a big like punch in the mouth and just going to steal it away, right? So the second day was Pomona, and that was a goddess of the fruit and trees. Her symbol was the apple, and in the incorporation of this into Samhain probably explains the tradition for bobbing for apples.
Oh, cool.
I thought that was pretty dope. I don't know if I only done it like once or twice. I don't know about you, but I thought that was actually kind of cool. It hasn't really mattered too much in the scheme of things, but I thought it was pretty cool. So keep advancing, right? Now we're looking at about 400 AD. Wane of the Roman Empire, rise of the Christian Empire, and around 600 AD, 609 AD, if you want to be super precise, Pope Boniface the fourth, said, so the Roman Pantheon, in honor of all Christian martyrs, All Martyrs' Day came into effect. Cool, right? Sounds like an All Saints' Day. Cool. However, he made it in like May because you can't have pagan stuff, right? No pagan stuff. No, can't have that. Did it go over well? No. Did people really care? No. What did people do? October 31st. Hey, why not? So later on, Pope Gregory III, he said, you know what? We're just going to make it all saints, martyrs, all the things. And we're going to go from May 13th. I don't know why it was May 13th. I don't know. To
that's interesting.
November 1st. So not quite, but close enough. So people could essentially celebrate both.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have I want to say the pagan stuff before, celebrate like the dead, all that kind of stuff, and then you would do the Christian one the next day. So you could almost like bleed it into like a 2-day thing. Hey, whatever. So by this time, the 9th century, Christianity had gone into the Celtic area, which makes sense. But it also blended, as faiths and things of this nature tend to do anyway. It kind of gets incorporated and mixed together.
Right.
It blended the two holidays. So going about another 100-ish, 200 years later, in about 10,000 AD, 10,000, man, that'd be crazy. 1000 AD, they also made November 2nd, the church, made it All Saints' Day to honor the dead. Mm-hmm. So Christianity wasn't very, definitely in the early days, was not very nice to people who didn't believe in what they did.
For sure.
Christianity, they just wanted to squish it. Like, nope. But they also were smart in the fact that, well, if we make this day kind of close to this, but we kind of adopt some of that, people may be more willing because it's not much of a change. Mm-hmm. And the change is so slight over time that the old gets kind of forgotten, and the newer, because now that's also going to be old, just becomes more practiced. They did it for technically December 25th. Probably isn't Christ's birthday per se. It was an ancient pagan holiday.
Yep. No, for sure.
What better way to try to get people to convert over to what your belief system is to adopt the same days that you're already having a festival or a celebration of some other sort. Makes it the transition very easy, and then over time, it makes it quite easy just to get it away. So in doing this around the same time as Samhain, the church just made it almost an identical festival. So it makes it easy. All Saints' Day, bonfires, parades, costumes. Mm-hmm. Instead of people dressing up like with animal heads and stuff, they were saints, angels, and even devils. I say that in quotes. So again, you kind of made it so similar that people weren't really taken aback by it. They also changed the name. It wasn't like All Saints' Day. It was All Hallows' Day. Or All Hallowsmen. I'm not going to try to pronounce the Middle English stuff. We actually had a little discussion on how the word change came into effect. I'm not going to try to pronounce this. It means All Saints' Day. I'm going to try because what the hell? It kind of looks all right. Hallowesemeni? I don't know. I butchered it. Whatever. But it means All Saints' Day. And therefore the night before it, All Hallows' Eve. Mm-hmm. Which would be what? October 31st, Samhain. So that's where it started and kind of ended. Now we're going to come into America. So colonial Americans, obviously religiously religious, was Protestant in nature, and it was pretty rigid. It was like no things, right? So Halloween, for whatever reason, was more common in Maryland. I don't know. And the southern colonies. The southern colonies make sense. Maryland, I don't know, it's kind of north, but I can understand. Obviously, the beliefs from different European ethnicities came into effect, but along with Native American traditions, they kind of meshed. And our version of Halloween started to merge and to start to come out a little bit. So they were parties. They were public. Again, it was still all about the harvest and the transition of working seasons, I guess you could say. People would share stories of the dead and honor each other, try to tell fortunes, dancing. To be honest, not so much about. I would say it's kind kind of similar to some of our parties now. I mean, I wouldn't, maybe not the fortune telling part, but everything else, I would say it happens.
Probably pretty similar, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the modern intonation would be like the candy aspect, not so much candy, not too much candy back, a couple hundred years ago yet.
But if there's partying, there's going to be goodies
of some sort, yes. So, like I said, ghost stories, mischiefs. Now, in the middle of the 19th century, these were pretty common. The annual autumn festivals of the fall festival, but Halloween wasn't like Halloween like it is now. It's more common, not quite everywhere, but is gaining popularity. Second half of the 19th century, tons of immigrants come in. These new immigrants, now you got the Irish coming in. Where's Ireland? Former Celtic area.
Yeah.
So they're fleeing because of the potato famine, and they had already been celebrating this stuff. So when they came, boom, America now has Halloween because now they're everywhere because that's how it rolled.
Oh, that makes sense.
So trick-or-treating. I always have fun doing it. Could never really eat all the candy because moms didn't let me eat the candy. That's okay. It was still fun as heck getting dressed up and going around. So this more recent, we're talking probably last, I guess now, probably 1900s, early 1900s. People just started to dress up and ask for food or money. Trick or treat. Trick or treat. So young women believe that Halloween, they could actually divine the appearance of their future husband by doing tricks with yarn, apples, and mirrors. So again, we're still adopting some of that old school stuff.
Well, that's back to that fortune telling.
Yep, fortune telling. Yarn, don't know where that comes into effect, but apples and mirrors, that kind of, mirrors have always had that connotation to them anyway.
Well, whatever it's there for, if the idea is they think it's going to tell them something in the future,
they're going to do it by all means. Absolutely. So late 1800s, there was more of a movement to try to make Halloween in the U.S., in America, more into like a holiday about a community, neighborly stuff, not like bonfires and jams and stuff. So it's less about, or more about community and doing our thing versus ghosts, witchcraft, the tricks, playing pranks on stuff, bonfires, that kind of thing. Like as in burning the crops. I think there's probably still a heck of a lot of fall bonfires around us.
For sure.
Like we're in the same area, so I mean it happens in our neck of the woods all the time. So now Halloween becomes for children and adults, and it's quite common now to have some type of party. Got games, food, costumes, or all sorts of stuff that go on now. And I know, heck, starting about 5 o'clock p.m. my time, trick or treat starts around here. So I know that I'm looking forward to seeing some kids come out and do their thing.
Oh, for sure. So
I'm going to take a break for a second. How about you? You got anything yet? Want to interject, or are you good?
Yeah. So this is what I had set up for tonight on our special episode. So now that we've talked about where Halloween comes from and why it is we do what we do on this day, I just wanted to point out some of the more spooky Halloween themed encounters that you have in the Wheel of Time. So real briefly, I'll touch on a few. Nightmares that become living flesh. That happens. So what do I mean by that? That's that trope where your character has that dream and, oh, this thorn pricked my hand in the dream. And then they wake up and the thorn isn't there, but the hole in their hand is there. Or they pull the thorn out and then it disappears right in front of their eyes. So that trope is definitely found in the Wheel of Time. You'll find howling wolves, that is. You'll find crows that can communicate with the Dark One himself, like this suspicious bird I have behind me. And the deal is that the Dark One is connected with dead things, and these types of birds tend to eat dead things. So, on the off chance they do, they can kind of forge that connection at that point. It's not like they're born that way. So, a little bit of extra something has to happen. So, what else as far as nasty Halloween related? Well, I'm not going to hit every little creature in Wheel of Time, but I definitely want to mention one that has a bunch of different names: the Murderol, the Dark Man, the Eyeless, the Fae, the Shadow Man.
That's good because I got one for you too. After
Okay. So this guy, generally speaking, he looks like a guy, I guess, in the books anyway. It has armor that overlaps like a snake. He's supposed to walk like kind of like a viper and move all fast, but his skin is all kind of nasty, paley, ash white. And yeah, he's supposed to be kind of like a boogeyman though, because here's the Halloween aspect I just want to run over real quick. So if he touches a shadow or steps into shadow, he can literally use that to teleport to another shadow anywhere else, like in the world, apparently. So that's kind of that, the shadow under my bed kind of situation, that's in our urban legends here. So one more I wanted to throw out that's very Halloween-esque is and obviously there are witches in the Wheel of Time, but I'll let everyone else figure that out. But one thing for sure, big Halloween wise, is this creature called the Drakkar. And this thing is kind of like cross between, think about a vampire bat mixed with a succubus. And it can croon and sing this kind of creepy, weird song to you. And if you get close enough to it and it kisses you, then it takes your soul away. So when it flies, it looks like a giant bat. There's always this kind of image of it flying in front of the moon, kind of like that Michael Keaton 1980s Batman movie. So those are pretty much the main kind of dark Halloween kind of creatures that come across to me. So you said you had one more thing, Theo? Go for it.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get the actual festival real quick, and then we'll do a wrap up.
Word.
So, ancient Celts, they actually had 4 major festivals, but this one in the October is like the biggest one because it does mark, give or take, the midpoint of the fall equinox and the winter solstice. So there is a time aspect of this too. Do I know if they actually knew that wholeheartedly and were able to like delineate time from the stars and stuff to actually get the equal point? That I don't know. If someone does, that'd be cool. Let us know.
There may be an appropriate constellation that you can suddenly start to see.
That's potential.
On a given night. That's generally how I understand things were done.
Yep.
Or like, when this constellation disappears,
then it's something. Yeah, means it's meaningful of some sort.
Because the constellations are pretty closely tied to the actual solar year. So, but anyway, that's about as much as I know.
Yeah, it beats me. So yes, you needed to participate. If you didn't, you usually get some type of punishment. Illness or death is the usual consequence of non-participation. So as you can tell, probably most people were eager to participate, so they didn't have that falling out. It's pretty interesting. There's 3, I'm gonna say, monsters that are associated with this festival. So, as I said, it's the blurring of the living and the dead. So it makes sense that some interesting creatures would hop over. One, and I'm gonna totally destroy the name because I'm not the best on pronunciations, but the puka. That's one. And that's a shape-shifting creature. So like, kind of like a fade. So,
Okay. I'm with you.
Yeah, kind of
I'm
interesting.
with you. Yeah. Go for it.
This one's funny. Not quite, I wouldn't say funny, kind of creepy, but interesting because it has an interesting connotation to American culture. The Lady Gwen is a headless woman dressed in white, chases night wanderers, and is sometimes accompanied by a black pig. And I say it's kind of funny because it's not funny with the headless woman part, but the Tales of Ichabod Crane, right, and the Headless Horseman.
Very similar to that.
So yeah, it's gender swapped, woman to guy, and yeah, he was headless instead of a black pig. It's a black horse,
right?
But depending on the pig, I mean, if it's big enough, you could ride a pig too.
Oh, for sure, like a feral boar.
Yeah. So I mean, did we have a lot of those in the U.S. way back when? I don't know about that. That's not my thing. But thought that is a good parallel. And then lastly is the Dulhan. Again, if I mispronounce it, my apologies. These dudes were little impish dudes. Again, headless. These, instead of like just having one, all of these people, or ex-people, whatever you want to call them, beasts, they were headless men on horses and who carried their heads. I think this one is more apt to our Headless Horseman, and it went from the Lady Gwen merged with Dolan into our version of the Headless Horseman, because it was riding a flame-eyed horse.
Okay. Yeah.
Their appearance was like a death omen.
Right. Okay.
To anyone that encountered them, and a lot of times they would carry their head in their hand as they were riding their horse. So in the Tale of Ichabod Crane, what happens? Headless Horseman, he's got his jack-o'-lantern head, and yeah, you see him, it's like death. So I think it kind of like swapped. Instead of like a whole bunch of creatures, it went down to one. So it kind of like how we did it, I think it kind of morphed into like one central figure. So,
well, I like that because check this out. What do fades usually do to get around? They ride these black horses. And check this out. Do you know what Ichabod or the Headless Horseman and fades also have in common? They don't like crossing running water.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting? So like you get to a bridge and they'll kind of be like, I don't know about this.
I don't know about these things. So the last fun fact I have is jack-o'-lanterns.
Okay.
They used to be carved turnips. Called jack-o'-lanterns. Cool. They would attach strings and coal would be in there, hence the lighting of them up. Later, it was Irish. It was an Irish tradition that switched into pumpkins, which are plentiful here now in the States. So that's why we carve pumpkins and not turnips.
Wow, that's so crazy. I had no idea. Well, a pumpkin's more fun than a turnip. That's for sure. Without
turnip. And also, if you think about it, turnips are really kind of small.
Right.
You have to be really skilled to get in there and to actually to knock it out.
You know what though? That's smart because the kids are gonna like take a long time carving that turnip.
That is true too, if you would allow them to do it. I don't know. I mean, it's a kind of a children's thing here.
I see what you mean. It might not have. I gotcha. Yeah.
It may not have been back then.
Yeah. No, good point.
So that's what I got.
No, so that's great. But look, I almost forgot the biggest thing in Wheel of Time related to this holiday, and that of course is Trick or Treat. And this is going to be about one particular character in mind, Matron Cawthon, right? So
Mr.
Matt Cawthon is the only character who, let's just put it this way, successfully, if that could be said, goes to both of the other realms, the Eelflin and the Aelflin. So the first people, these are these snaky folk, as they're called, and you can ask them 3 questions, okay? and they'll give you three answers, right? Well, you can definitely think about that as the trick part. So, because they never tell you like what, like, let's say you're going to either paint your room yellow or green. Okay. Those are the two options. You'll go to the snaky folk and be like, what color is my room going to be? And you know in your head it's going to be yellow or green. And they will be like, oh, it's not going to be red. And it's like, okay, that was zero help whatsoever. So they're pretty tricky. So the other people are kind of like the treaters, so to speak. So the Aelflin will give you information. The Isleflin, or the Eelflin rather, whichever it is, man, I get those mixed up. They're kind of called the Foxy folk, and you can negotiate with them to like get a treat, to get a prize. So Matt pretty much gets tricked and treated. He gets a few goodies to go home with. And he has a couple of ravens emblazed into his one of his treats that he gets. So that's kind of festive, you know. So that's all I got. I just wanted to kind of throw that into the end because it fits in pretty well, I thought.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I know we enjoyed like doing a little research on this because I thought it was pretty cool. I always liked Halloween, still do, even though I'm an old gentleman now. But I hope you enjoyed our special episode. Please like and subscribe to us. Or if we're wrong about something, or you have some information you want to talk about something, hey, hit us up, let us know. We're more than apt to take that under consideration, and hey, maybe even be a guest speaker on our show, man. We're cool with that too. So however you want to go. Again, like, subscribe. We really like those. They're very helpful, and they're very good for our mental health.
Absolutely.
Doing these things. So appreciate you guys' time and efforts. Again, we are the Heels of Time. Happy